Now, we've been talking about line, and I thought this would be a perfect painting to show you. It's by a Dutch painter called Piet Mondrian, or Piet Mondrian, and it's a great example of how line is used to create a really stark impression. This is called composition in red, blue, and yellow. This was painted in 1937 to 1942 by this Dutch painter, and he was quite big in the beginnings of abstract art during the 20th century. So I hope you like this art class that we're doing today that is based on this painting. Okay, so for our art class, the actual painting part, we're going to need a few items, and we're going to create our own little Piet Mondrian or Piet Mondrian style of painting. What we're going to need is a piece of watercolor paper. The thicker you can get, the better. We're going to need some watercolors with a mixing palette. We're also going to need a couple of jars of water. One jar is for washing your paintbrush and the other jar is for mixing colours. A pair of scissors. We're going to need a board today. This is just a piece of cardboard covered in some clear contact. And we're going to need some masking tape. Now this masking tape is a little bit thinner than the usual one. Because I'm only using an A4 size piece of paper, I am going to use the thinner one. So first of all, as we usually do when we use watercolors, we tape around the outside of the paper. I'm not quite sure how sticky this is, and I'm not giving it too big a border today, just a few millimeters. And I want to try and keep that border as neat as possible, so as even as possible. So I'll do up this side. Hopefully you can see that. Make sure it's nice and even. The final two sides. Okay, then. I don't want to stick it down too hard because I actually don't want my watercolor paper to tear. So if you remember that the artwork we just looked at has lots of little sections of lots of shapes in it, lots of line, because that's what we've been talking about lately is line. So what I want to do, because we're going to put some masking tape over the actual paper, I'm going to get rid of some of the tackiness on my pants. So I'm just putting these down. So hopefully when I pull that off, it's not going to tear. I'm going to do the same, just get some of the tackiness off. And I'm actually going to cut some pieces here to create some different shapes there. Now you can continue doing this for as long as you like. I'm going to press pause, or I'm going to press stop recording and come back when I'm done. Okay, so I feel like I've created some really lovely shapes there, rectangles, four-sided, lots of four-sided shapes. So I'm just pressing down to make sure that I've created a good seal between the paper and the masking tape. And I'm hoping that later on down the track, this doesn't create tearing when I've finished my artwork. So feels like there's a pretty good seal happening there. You can approach this many different ways. You might choose to use similar colours as Piet or Pete did. You might choose to do multiple colours. You might choose to create pieces of shapes where there's lots of colours in that one piece. You can choose to use one colour and just do a variety of tones. You could make it variable across the whole page and start you know, maybe down in the bottom corner with dark colors and then work your way to light colors. Whichever way you approach this, that's your creative aspect of it. I'm just showing you a different way that you can try painting. You don't even need to use watercolors if you don't wish. You can choose to do something like this using acrylic paints. It's totally up to you. In fact, a good activity to do would be to try it in the watercolor paints and then give it a go in the acrylic paints, which is just what I might do. So for now, I think I am still loving working with green and blue. So I think that I'm going to actually just create some lovely colors using just green and blue. So I'm not going to show you all of this, but I'll just show you. Is that even blue? Yes, it is. Okay. So I am going to just start working on this, and I'm just going to add some water because I actually don't want this to be a perfectly coloured piece of paper in this little section. I want variations in it. So however that works, make sure I've covered all the pieces. That's how I'm going to create my piece, just using blues and greens. Now remembering that where we've put the masking tape or the tape, when we peel that away, that's going to leave white or whatever colour your piece of watercolour paper is. So you can choose to just do watercolour straight on dry, or you can choose to pre-wet, which is what we've looked at in previous lessons, and just add the watercolor to that. Totally up to you, but what I'm trying to create is a variation. So I want some white and lighter parts and some darker parts on each of these. I want it to have a bit of depth, so I might even maybe do all of the shapes on the right side, or to you it could be left, on one side having a lighter color, and then on the opposite side adding it a bit darker, so it kind of creates a creates some shading. So I'm just going to keep on working and I'll speed that up. Okay, so I have finished this, and as I was painting it, I've come up with a great name for it, but I'll tell you in the end. What I'm going to do is take it out into the sunshine, and it shouldn't take too long for this to dry up. Okay, so what I did here was just very, very carefully peel off the masking tape. Now, I've shown you how to do this in previous videos. What you need to do is just very slowly and carefully tear it or pull it off at a 90-degree angle to the actual tape, and then make sure that you look at the order of which you put the tape on. So pull off the top stuff first. Carefully do it. It's given mostly lovely clean lines. I've continued to do it nice and slowly. Now, while I'm doing this, I'd just like to mention my YouTube channel, Bit of a Hippie. It's only a new one. I have a goal to get 1,000 subscribers within a year. So I'm hoping that if you like what you're seeing, you might like my video and click subscribe just down the bottom, just underneath it in the red writing. You pretty much need to be a member of YouTube though, or have your own account to subscribe. So that's just a very quick process. I would really appreciate it if you did that, and then that way I can keep on making these videos for free for everyone to see and hopefully participate in. Also, I have a Facebook group called Free Art Class, and that coincides with this YouTube channel. So basically what you get, if you join that, you get to post your creations that you make from the videos that I've created for you. And you also get to see when the latest video is up as well. But it's mostly for sharing of people's work who have actually done pieces of this, done any pieces from my videos. So I'm just about done. I accidentally tore a little bit of the paper off, but I actually fixed that up at the very end with just put a tiny little bit of glue on it with my finger and patted that down, and it was good as new. You couldn't even see that it was actually torn. So don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Bit of a Hippie. I would greatly appreciate that. And there we have our finished piece. I ended up calling this piece green, but mostly blue. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.